All right. Today we are. I got a face cam right now, so that's pretty cool too. Let me. This. All right. Don't mind the ads. Sometimes they look weird, but that's all right. But we're gonna do a tier list ranking on TierMaker of all the participants of World War One. Now, not all of these. I know a lot of what these countries are. A couple maybe I don't because their flags aren't familiar. Like some of these flags I don't know if they exist very much as they did here anymore. But I'm gonna rank all these countries. I'm gonna start by organizing these. So I'll see you in a second. Alright, so now we have our chart. I kind of organized it, as you can see, like this kind of top layer right here. I put the major allies, and then I put the Axis powers. And then out here are a bunch that I'm not very familiar with their performance during World War One. Portugal, all I really know is they did naval stuff, but you don't really hear a lot about them, so I'm gonna leave these guys that I'm not very familiar with alone. But I'm gonna start with the UK. With them, I really think their performance is really good. I'll say that. The innovations they provided, like tanks and things for gas, weapons, they did a lot of good things, and they were a huge help. Do I think they were S tier effective or A tier effective? For the amount of people they put out, I think I'll decide at the end. I'm going to put them at A for now. And then we get to France. I think they're a little bit discredited. A lot of people don't like their performances in wars overall. I think their performance in World War II overshadows the performance of World War One. They put everything toward it in World War One. Their country was basically destroyed. A whole lot of the infrastructure was just gone. But, I mean, the Germans came in within, like, I don't know, 15 miles of Paris at one point, and still they didn't reach it. I mean, thanks to a lot of the British, like the Expeditionary Force, but places like Verdun, the Marne, Somme, a lot of those major battles, they were huge proponents in why they won the war. In, like at the Battle of Verdun, Germany wanting to bleed France white, it ended up doing the same thing. I'm going to, based on effectiveness, I had to put them in the same rank as Britain because, I mean, they were extremely effective, if not more. All right. And then America. Got in late in the war, 1917. I know, and then we were only really prevalent during 1918 when our soldiers got over there by 300,000 a month. Belleau Wood, that one Chateau, Meuse-Argonne offensive, a lot of big things. They basically sealed Germany's fate. Any chance that Germany would have had to win the war, they kind of closed that door. So I'm going to put the U.S., based on pure effectiveness and what they gave to the war, B for now. And then Russia. Russia is interesting because they were a huge factor in the war, especially against the Austro-Hungarians on the Eastern Front from 1914 to 1917. They were the first country to enter the war after the Black Hand from Serbia with Gavrilo Princip, I think it is, Gavrilo. He killed Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and then Russia was obviously allied with them, so they had to basically declare war on Austria-Hungary, and then that caused a big chain reaction with then Austria-Hungary having Germany declare war on them, and then a bunch of other stuff happens. Britain waits a little bit, joins the war, and France joins almost immediately because they were allies with Russia. But based on, they almost ran out of guns at one point. Tannenberg was a disaster. I mean, it's fun to hear about stories like the Army of the Dead Men when they took that fort back after losing or something like that. I'm pretty sure. But they ended up dropping out of the war based on really bad conditions for the people. I mean, the Tsardom did not treat its people well if you're a peasant, and there's a lot of reason to want to get away from that. They leave the war in 1917, almost destroying the Austro-Hungarian Empire, but also being humiliated because they're not even the same country less than a year later. I mean, the November Revolution tore them apart. But on pure effectiveness, I'm going to put them at a B. And then there's Italy. Italy is also a little bit overlooked. They're very, very prevalent at like the too many battles of the Isonzo, like 11. Monte Grappa, just up in the Alps. That's where they mainly were effective against mainly the Austro-Hungarians, sometimes the Germans. But they were mainly opportunists. They saw what they could gain from the war, not what they could let the continent get from it. They saw land basically on the other side of, is it the Adriatic? I'm not sure. Whatever sea is between Italy and like Slovenia and all that. But it was parts of like Slovenia, that one other country, Croatia, kind of that area right here. They were effective. If they weren't there, they wouldn't have been. It wouldn't have been as easy. They took a lot of attention away from everybody. So I'll put them at a C. In Belgium honestly is probably more effective than Italy. After seeing things and listening to people, I can see how you could think Belgium, if they had just let Germany go through and not attacked, Germany could have won the war. The Central Powers could have won the war. They were a big proponent, very overlooked. I mean, big at the 3 battles of Ypres, Passchendaele being one of them, probably the largest. What is it? Liège, that's a big one that they're part of. Basically, a lot of battles that happen in their country. Not a big country for how much they did and how much they were affected. So honestly, I'm putting them at B tier based on how much they had at stake and how they performed. For their size, very impressive. All right, and then Japan. A lot of people get confused with Japan. If you were to probably ask any random person on the street what side was Japan under in World War I, they would probably say the Central Powers, just thinking about the Axis powers in World War II, the Tripartite Pact. But they were on the Allied powers. They were also opportunists, pretty violent, but they performed very well. They took a lot of the islands from Germany away in the Pacific that they would have up until pretty much World War II, and then they'd lose some of them back to the U.S. But they were very effective navally. They kind of choked Germany's supply line coming from Asia because, you know, there was a lot of countries there that got screwed away from spheres of influence. Like you have Great Britain, Germany, France, maybe Belgium, and then there was Africa too in the Berlin Conference, but that's a different thing. They were pretty effective. I know they didn't like what happened with China. But, and also, before the war, they had already beat the Russians in the Russo-Japanese War. I think that's what it's called, which was kind of shocked the world a little bit because nobody usually beats Russia like that because it's such a large country. So, but overall, during World War I, they weren't incredibly effective, not too much to focus on. So just based on pure effectiveness, not like their effect on the war, not how they performed like on a day-to-day basis. They didn't do as much as any of these people. I don't know a whole lot about Brazil. I know they sent a lot of troops over. There was stuff going on in the Falkland Islands. That's all I really know about South American countries. I think Argentina was a proponent, maybe. I know Brazil, though. They sent a lot of soldiers over. I don't know enough about them. I mean, if there's any Brazilians watching this, I'm sure you know more than I do. But since I don't know enough about them, I'm just gonna have to put them over here because I'm not too familiar with them. And for what I know, this is Serbia. And honestly, Serbia embarrassed Austria-Hungary or the Austro-Hungarian Empire because the Austro-Hungarian Empire is way larger, way more populated, much more people, but yet they still beat them like for a long time, held them back. Which really shouldn't have happened, but it did. And then later you'd obviously have Bulgaria coming in and Serbia be squeezed, have to kind of surrender a little bit. But honestly, C tier. Very effective. Much more effective than they should have been. Yeah. And then Romania. Romania wasn't very effective. But, I mean, good manpower, not very good tactics, not very good performance. Honestly, I'd give it a D tier. And one here, I don't know if it's here, I don't see it, that should be here is Australia or New Zealand, which, if they were here, I think about the battles of Gallipoli or anything in that front against the Ottoman Empire, because they were very effective there. Achi Baba, those areas, they were prevalent. The Anzacs, pretty much. They were, I mean, Gallipoli would not have been the same battle if it weren't for the Anzacs being there. I know the British were probably the biggest one, but they deserve to be on this list, and if they were, I'd put them at B tier. Germany. Honestly, based on what they were doing, a two-front war against basically two at the start and then three major superpowers on the western front for a while, and then going against Russia on the east and Italy to the south, they held them off for so long it almost got Paris at one point. Honestly, the war was probably a big mistake to begin with. I mean, something was going to happen. Tensions were boiling over, but I mean, Otto von Bismarck predicted it. Germany itself, I can't put it anywhere but S tier. They outperformed themselves. They showed why they were probably the world's strongest power at that point. I mean, earlier defeating France in the Franco-Prussian War, embarrassing them there, that's probably why, like, having them sign the treaty at Versailles, they didn't make them sign the treaty at Versailles, but I think they crowned the Kaiser in the Palace of Versailles. I'm pretty sure that's what it was, which has a huge offense to France, and that's why you would have France trying to humiliate Germany so much. It's that war. And I mean, Germany would not be the German Empire after the war. It would turn into, what was it? Weimar Republic. Weimar Republic, that's what it was. And that wouldn't last for a huge amount of time, and Hitler would come in. But World War I exclusively, S tier. Alright, the Austro-Hungarian Empire. In my eyes, you can compare the Austro-Hungarian Empire to Italy during World War II. They were both the stupid thing, like the stupid country that Germany got stuck with. That basically was a big part in sealing their fate. Like, if you had a reliable country that you could have as your duo, like you had the UK and France, both decently reliable, a lot more reliable than Austria-Hungary. I mean, basically having the army destroyed by Russia, not being able to invade Serbia, not being able to push further than they could have into Italy, not really any presence on the Western Front. I mean, they just didn't do all that much.